Okay.
All right, I'll call this meeting of the gonna mute your speaker.
Try now.
Test. I didn't hear it. I think we're good. All right, I'll call the meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 6:03 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call. All members are present. And with that, we will move on to citizen input. Is there anyone here wishing to speak? No? All right. If not, we will move on to consent agenda, which is the minutes of the meeting from November 20th, 2023.
Move approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There is no unfinished business, so we will move on to new business. Item A, Battalion Chief Overtime. Chief Delane?
So as you guys are aware of our current staffing situation being kind of shorthanded, what we did is go to some of our neighboring fire departments and see what they do as far as compensation goes in regards to their battalion chief if they were to pick up a shift for a regular line firefighter. So if they picked up a shift for a firefighter EMT or a firefighter paramedic or something along those lines, what we found is the results kind of are mixed between the departments around here. Some give their battalion chiefs a stipend, which we found in between $1,000 to $1,500 per shift. Some pay them overtime for picking up a line officer or a line firefighter shift. What we are requesting is to pay them overtime just in the instances where they pick up a shift for somebody else. Not everything they do, just if they were to pick up a scheduled shift for someone that couldn't fill a shift for whatever reason. It would help us lessen our mandates that we have bringing people in. And in some cases, if we have a personnel who may be a paramedic who is at the top of the pay scale, who is also a officer, those additional wages that they get would actually cause more overtime than one of the battalion chiefs picking up overtime. So we're looking for approval to pay the battalion chiefs overtime for any shift work that they pick up.
Yeah, and in your narrative, you said that you don't anticipate any additional funds needed for this, right?
Correct.
Because of that?
Yep.
Because this would actually be less than someone else,
Correct.
including
So
the stipend and their time and a half.
correct.
Okay. Committee?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Typically, what does the battalion chief do in his 24 hours on? It's 24 on, 48 off, right? Yeah.
Correct. Typically, the battalion chief is the one who is overall in charge of the shift. They run the staffing assignments. They make sure that the shift is running smoothly. All the daily chores are taken care of. That the station gets backfilled if we have a number of different calls going on. In addition to that, they have their own specialties. One of the battalion chiefs is in charge of our Fire Prevention Bureau. Another one is in charge of EMS, and then another one is in charge of fire training.
Do
So
they ever act as a paramedic or EMS person on a call?
they do if it's on their shift currently. So if we are short on the shift, they will go on
If
to.
they're short,
Yep.
okay.
And even if they are not, if we are not short, but we have more than 2 calls going on at one time, they may first respond to a 3rd call
Okay.
or 4th call.
So this, you don't think this would be undue stress or anything if they had to pick up 2 24-hour shifts in a row or 3 in a row, depending upon what might be happening? And,
No, it would actually overall reduce the stress of the department.
okay.
That's a good question. Anything else from? Yeah, trustee Nyrather.
John, what are you doing at the present time for these situations?
So currently what we are doing is anytime there is a vacation or an opening on the shift, we offer it to the membership to fill that shift. If we drop below 4 people on a shift, then we're mandating people to come in to fill the shift. This would help us reduce those mandates right now. The battalion chiefs would not automatically just be able to sign up for the shift. They would be the last option before a mandate happened.
Thank you.
One more
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
And the battalion chiefs are good with this. They think,
Yeah.
hey, this is great, even if I have to work 2 or 3 days in a row.
Yes, it gives them an opportunity to make a little bit more money, and it gives the rest of the crews a little opportunity to have some more time off.
Okay.
It'd be,
So they're basically being added to the pool of.
they would be being added to the pool as a last resort, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request to pay overtime to the battalion chiefs.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the battalion chief overtime change. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, new business item B, a resolution disallowing the claim of David Latola for automobile damage. Information is in our packet, but we'll hear from the attorney.
Sure. Just a fairly simple claim. Basically, the allegations are that the claimant was driving down the street. There were village lawnmower operations occurring at the same time, and alleged that a stone was kicked up through the mower and damaged his vehicle. As is typically the case on these types of things, the village has statutory immunity from claims of this nature. It certainly doesn't fall into any of the exceptions of where we would typically see liability on behalf of the village. The mower was in operating condition. It had the appropriate guards on, that kind of stuff. That, in short, was just an accident. So based on that, we would recommend denial or approval of the resolution, either way.
Approval of the resolution to deny. Yes. Trustee Kaminsky.
So this doesn't go to our insurance department? Our insurance claim?
No, the amount of the claim is small enough that we wouldn't even submit it to the insurance because it's below our deductible level. So sending it to them doesn't do anything.
This
'Cause
guy's just stuck paying $883.
no, his insurance company is stuck paying the $880.
Depending upon what his deductible is, no?
Correct.
That seems very unfair to me. That's just stating that as a fact. If I was driving by and I knew the object came from the village lawnmower and ruined my car, I'd be really ticked.
Well,
I'm sorry, accident or not, somebody's responsible for it, in my opinion.
certainly we don't know for sure that it came from the lawnmower either. We
That's
suspect,
why you go
obviously.
and let the insurance company figure it out. Anyway. That's my 2 cents.
Anybody else? Yeah, trustee Jan Miller.
I just had a comment. I kind of agree with Kaminsky, that trustee Kaminsky. It seems unfair, and especially because there's a picture of the lawnmower. I mean, he must have stopped right away and talked to somebody. Did he?
They ended up
They called the
touching
cops.
base with, they called the police department and the
Right.
police department
Right.
got DPW out there to talk with them. And,
Yeah.
yeah, certainly from all indications, it seems like it may have come from the mower. There was a mower in the location that he alleges he got hit. And as a result, we think that that may be the case, but the operator didn't indicate that he heard or saw anything. And as I note, all of the appropriate guards and everything else are in place, so.
Most of our mowing employees that I've observed have headphones on of some kind, headsets, yeah,
Right.
for noise canceling or for whatever. So that was my comment.
Would entertain a motion to approve the resolution to disallow the claim.
I will move to that effect.
I will second. Any further discussion? I mean, this type of claim comes about, I don't know, we've had a few this year already, and it's always the recommendation to disallow and let it go through the plaintiff's insurance company. Whether it be right or wrong or what you feel, I mean, that's typically it, because it could open us up to more liability.
Is that why?
Certainly, there is some argument that could be made that, hey, if you're doing it for me, why aren't you doing it for me? You know, if you're picking and choosing those types of claims, that you potentially run into an equal protection type claim that's raised. My personal opinion would be that claim wouldn't get very far if you did that. But I mean, as we've talked about previously and on multiple occasions, the statute or the concept behind the statute is that it's better to saddle that cost of potential risk to the property owner who can properly insure themselves, as opposed to making the taxpayers foot that bill. And that's the theory behind it. We may not agree with it, but that's what the statute allows us to do. So
I get the theory. What if the lawnmower ran into the car?
certainly we'd have to, I mean, as I say, I mean, there are exceptions to immunity. Intentional acts, for example, would be in, in a situation
Not
where,
intentionally, but guy lost control of the lawnmower doing his work and he hit the car.
well, I mean, we'd
Same
have to,
thing?
we'd have to look at the circumstances and see, why did he lose control? Was it,
Yeah.
was he screwing around beforehand, or, was it a freak accident type of
No,
situation?
I guess I get it. I totally get the theory, but I'm kind of the underdog here. This could be some poor 19-year-old guy now has to come up with $800 because you can't show me an insurance deductible that's less than 1,000 nowadays.
Mine's 250 for what it's
Yeah,
worth.
it's a comprehensive claim, not a,
Oh, okay.
so comprehensive is you typically lower.
Okay, I'm feeling a little
Not all-
better.
not
I'm
all
feeling
is,
a little
but-
better.
And this will, whatever our recommendation is, this will be on the village board agenda tonight. So any further discussion?
Mm,
If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
2 and 2. So it goes to village board with no recommendation. All right, new business item C, presentation on annual reports for tax increment districts 6, 7, and 8. And with that, we'll go to Administrator Crackwell.
It was on. There it is. Turn it so you can see, because I can watch this one.
I thought with a relatively light agenda tonight and some new information out regarding the status of our three of our tax increment districts, 6, 7, and 8, provide the committee with a report on some of the numbers. These numbers are taken from the reports that Ehlers prepared, the mandatory annual reports for each one of the tax increment districts. Ehlers will be presenting this tomorrow night to the Joint Review Board at the Fireman's Park Shelter. Kind of unusual location for that, but the village boardroom had been reserved previously by the Park and Rec Department. And tomorrow night was the night when we could get all of the members of the Joint Review Board there. So we took advantage of that alternative location. I'll start with tax increment District 6, just give some of the some of the key facts and figures related to tax increment District 6. And for people who might not be familiar, that is the Willow Creek Business Park off of Appleton Avenue, just south of Lannon Road. tax increment district was created in 2014. And it has the expenditure period ends in 2029. And what that means is that's the last time that the village can spend money out of the tax increment district on any improvements. So there's 5 more years left when the village, if we chose, and I don't think there's anything on the radar for tax increment District 6, but the village could make additional expenditures for that tax increment district through 2029. After that time, no more expenditures can be made out of that tax increment district. There is a mandatory closure date in 2034, and that's when, according to state statute, the tax increment district has to be closed and returned to the basic property value, tax base. The base value when this tax increment district was formed was $2,796,000. The incremental value as of, and actually it's almost 2 years ago at this point, is $41.6 million. And that number will be higher based upon another large light industrial building that's currently being constructed there. That should increase the incremental value probably by another $20 to $25 million. And that building is nearing completion. So that additional property value generates additional property taxes. And including the new building that's going up, annual incremental property taxes for TID 6 will be about $850,000 per year. So that's property tax revenue that TID is generating that's used to pay off all of the debt obligations for the tax increment district. And then looking through the cash flow analysis provided by Ehlers, assuming no additional expenditures or no other changes, tax increment district 6 would close in 2032, and then that $60 million it would go back to the tax base, and $850,000 in increment would go back to the other taxing jurisdictions: village, school district, county, and MATC. So then I'll move on to tax increment district 7. And that is the area around J.W. Speaker, going west over to Goldendale, and then across Goldendale at the railroad tracks and extending further west and to the north to include the Capstone Quadrangle development. It was created in 2017. And it was amended to incorporate the Capstone Quadrangle development in 2021. The expenditure period for tax increment districts 7 ends in 2032, and there is a mandatory closure date in 2039. So that's a little bit further out. The base value for this TID was higher. It was $9,642,000 when it was created, and that's because it included the J.W. Speaker facilities that were there in 2017. The incremental value as of January 1st, 2022 was $23,673,000, and that incorporated the first building. That was, well, I should say the building that J.W. Speaker had put up, their technology building on their campus, as well as the first Capstone Quadrangle building. There are 2 additional Capstone Quadrangle buildings that are planned. That will increase that to the $60 to $70 million range. And that would generate, when those buildings are complete, which is expected in 2024, they should be substantially complete, then the incremental revenues for TID 7 will be $950,000 a year. And it could potentially be even more if there's more development on the J.W. Speaker site that is also included in TID 7. The Ayers cash flow projections showed that estimated closure for TID 7, assuming no additional expenditures, would be in 2033. And then again, that $70 million or so in tax base would go back to the general tax rolls, and that $950,000 would be in annual property tax revenue to be allocated back to the school district, the county, the village, and MATC. And finally, we have Tax Increment District 8, which was created in 2018. The end of the expenditure period for TID 8 is 2033, and mandatory closure is in 2038. The base value for TID 8 was $640,000. And the incremental value as of January 1st, 2022 is $180.7 million. So very significant increase in that. And there are a couple of additional buildings, which would, when those are completed, would increase the annual revenues to $3.7 million per year. And that is very close to being built out. The sites either under construction or completed, are all of the lots are either under construction or completed, with the exception of one final lot that's under the control of Zilber, just on the north end of the business park on Gateway Crossing up near Rockfield Road. And the estimated closure that Ayers had presented, again, assuming no additional expenditures, would be 2029. And at that point, the property value would go back onto the tax rolls, and that $3.7 million per year be allocated out to the school district, the village, the county, and MATC. And then I had just kind of a final summary slide here where I pulled together the numbers, and I think the theory, the concept behind tax increment districts is they're long-term investments that the villages, municipalities that implement these, invest in some infrastructure that's paid for out of the tax increment district, that when the tax increments close, that they provide some revenue and some tax relief to the taxing jurisdictions. So in 10 years, based on these projections, all three of these tax increment districts would be closed. And when that's complete and they've all closed, there would be additional $360 million on the village tax base, and incremental property tax revenues of $5.5 million. So when those all close and those revenues go back to the other taxing jurisdictions, that's $5.5 million per year that each one of the taxing jurisdictions will collect. And the village share of that would be about $1.6 million. So in addition, you obviously see the additional development around the tax increment districts, which we're starting to see at this point, with proposals from Green Bay Packaging and Truck Country, which utilize and depend on the infrastructure that was paid for by those tax increment districts. But then those values go directly onto the property tax base. So just kind of a quick overview and some of the data and facts that are related to those three tax increment districts. I'll mention the village does have a fourth active tax increment district, 9, which is new, and there just isn't data to report on that yet at this point. So happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
Yeah, I have a question on TID 7. It's actually highlighted on the sheet, JW Speaker shortfall payments. Those are scheduled to start next year.
Yes, those would start next year. We've had some ongoing conversations, which the village attorney and I will need to pick up with JW Speaker in the next few months, to have conversations about what those might look like, or if there might be other arrangements that'd be advantageous to both the village and JW Speaker. But that is a term in our in our development agreement that they guaranteed certain property values by certain dates, and they have not achieved those. There was a second significant building that they were planning at the time that the tax increment district was formed, that as of our last conversation with them, that they were not planning to do in the near future. So if they don't move forward with that, then they do have a financial obligation to the village.
All right, committee, trustee Jan Miller.
Speaking to that, Steve, what is the balance for JW Speaker right now? What are we going to collect in 2024?
And I don't have the report open in front of me, but I believe that it was a
112,204 is.
112. Thank you, trustee Miller.
Is what's on the spreadsheet.
And that it's based on the way the agreement is written. If they have a shortfall between what the actual increment in additional property tax was and what they've achieved, they have to pay the difference in the equivalent property taxes that they would have paid. So I think that estimate from Ayler's is probably pretty accurate.
And then, well, you don't have it open, but perhaps Matthew does. Do you have this open? Okay, but on the right-hand side, it says, I think it says balances. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's red 275, let's call it 275,000. So is that the whole district or is that what Speaker owns?
For which year?
It's in the line,
Was
2023.
yeah.
And then, I guess if we get the balance then, Rick, then we're at the 112, 434 balance? How does that
Yeah,
work?
it looks like our cumulative balance is still positive, but for 2023, we had extra expenditures.
And that may be, if I am remembering correctly, we did have in one of our agreements with Capstone Quadrangle, they constructed the road that goes into that development area, and the village they turned that over to the village, and we did pay them back for it. So that may have been and we did not issue additional debt in that case, so that may have been why there was a 1 year or for that 1 year that revenues were lower than expenses. But as you stated, overall, that tax increment district is pretty healthy and has a good balance.
And then,
Yeah, go ahead.
um, and then out in, this print is very small. 2033. That's, I believe the date that this is going to be closed on page 5. And it's in yellow. So then it's 180.
And whatever cash balance is in the district at the time that it's closed, because they close at the end of a calendar year, you can't allocate a portion of the annual property taxes to the TID. The entire year's worth of property taxes go to the tax increment district, but then whatever balance is left is also allocated back to the taxing jurisdictions. So for example, a few years ago when TID 4 closed, there were some significant, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but I think it was roughly $800,000 that went to the school district. The village got $400,000 or $500,000, and that is part of when we talk about our reserves, our general fund reserves. That went to the general fund and increased our reserves at that point. There were also smaller checks that were distributed to the county and MATC when it closed.
What year was that? Did you say?
2018 or 19 TID 4 closed. I think 19. 18? All right, I should have gone with that. Then in addition to the payout from the fund balance, we received a bump in the property tax levy, and trustee Baum is correct. We then utilize that to help fund the transition of the fire department from part-time paid on call to a full-time department.
And then you mentioned on your report here under District 7 that the number is not here, but you were saying that the addition of a couple of the buildings that Capstone is making would bring it up to about 70 million.
Correct.
Okay. And the building 2 and 3 are going to be completed in 2024?
Yeah, 2 is substantially complete now.
Okay.
And 3 is if it's not under construction, it will be under construction in the spring.
Okay. Anyone else? Also, do you have a list of the district increment TID 8 buildings that are not, or how many lots did you say are available? Just one?
There's one lot
Okay.
that is currently open. It's referred to as Zilber 7. It's actually one of their larger lots. It's if you were traveling north on Gateway Crossing, it's the last lot that then borders Rockfield Road. So you can think about it as the southwest corner of Rockfield Road and Gateway Crossing, right across from our water tower that's going up.
So on your first slide, I'm going to call first slide, you've got incremental property tax revenues of 5.5 million annually. And did you mention that was for all of the
It's 5.5
four-
million, and again, that's an estimate.
Right.
But it's 5.5 million for all of the taxing jurisdictions. That's taking the combined tax rate, which is a little over $17, and then and applying that to that full tax base.
And our percent is about 12%, did you say?
No, it's a little bit higher than that. I think it's about 20%, 25%.
Probably closer to 25.
Okay,
25.
25%.
Thank you.
Right, any other questions for Administrator Krecklo? Great, thank you. Thanks for the update. We'll move on to reports. Accounts payable, and there are 6, I believe, 6 check runs. Any questions for staff on that? Go ahead.
Check runs, are we getting them weekly? This is a lot to go through.
You probably aren't getting them weekly. We try to do it every Friday, depending on how many check runs we do. You'll see in there, on December 6th, we did 2. One was probably a smaller one. I'm working in Munis to set it up where it's automatically sent out once the reports ran. But we will email them out weekly. But no, you're not missing it if you're looking for it in your email.
So when are you, when do you anticipate getting that set up, Matthew, did you say?
I'm going to test it this Thursday when we send out this week's AP.
So perhaps by next month?
Yeah, by the next, I'll test it this Thursday when we generate a check run, and then the next check run, I'll test it again, and then depending on if everybody gets it, who I think should get it, I'll put it into production and send it out that way.
Great, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on accounts payable? And we'll go to budget to actual. Report. No questions? Comments? All right, anything for payroll? So payroll is the last thing to be converted over, right, to Munis?
Yes, we're still doing payroll and MSI. We plan to go live with HR about mid-March. We'll start using like the timekeeping aspect, and then the first payroll will be the first week of April. April 2nd, I think, is the first payroll of that quarter.
Other questions on payroll?
That's what it is.
Got to pay the people. All right, if not, that concludes all things on the agenda. Our next meeting would be, if we stick with the same schedule, would be the week of the 15th. I'm sorry, it would be Monday, the 15th. Is that okay with everyone? All right, so we will schedule it for the 15th. We'll leave it at 6 o'clock unless there's a large agenda, and we'll move it to 5:30 if that's needed. And with that, we will adjourn.
I'll be here for a minute, Mark.
Yeah. I still have freedom. You ready to dump out, just.
Oh, Lord, do you have it?
Right now, kind of hard to see looking for their, place one of them was. Just think. Other horses. Yeah. The one of them has some type of